Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to the 132nd audio chat on the Q News Patriot Rumble Channel series. I am the Q News Patriot, joined today with Pet Club 247 advocates Kristen and Miss Diana. My name is SG Anon. For those of you out there that have been following Q News Patriot these last few months, you will remember Pet Club as the very first partner product that we chose to recognize here at Q News Patriot. The main and what ended up being the primary reason for that was their focus on the natural component of God's creation and what God's foods can really do for us. We're going to have an incredible, I think, discussion today on that topic and many others. Kristen, Diana, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I appreciate the time and for you both, agreeing to come on air and being flexible with me as schedules have shifted, a number of different times just in this day alone on this end as we accelerate through the end of 2024 and into 2025. I think Patriots are experiencing an incredible acceleration of momentum and, exhilaration in their own life. And Miss Diana, before we get going into things, on some of those other topics, I'd like to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about your life, your experience, and what you've lived in this great awakening so far.
Well, thank you for the platform and thank you for the opportunity. I am so blessed of what has happened for me and to me because of this company and this great product and God's, gift of this mushroom, the Corioulus versicolor. In 2020, I was diagnosed with colon cancer, and it was right at the beginning of the pandemic when everybody was in this situation of no elective surgeries. You had to be declared life or death in order to be operated on. And while the doctors were deciding whether I was viable to be operated on, I had a tumor in my colon that could explode, it could rupture, it could kill me. And I had nothing in my toolbox except prayer and the Corioulus versicolor mushroom. Now, I knew about the mushroom because we had given it to my puppy for 2 years prior. And, we had researched this mushroom. We knew that the Corioulus versicolor had 400 documented studies, and we wanted to keep our pup around forever. And I just never took the human product. So that day that I was diagnosed, I literally started taking 10 a day. Normal dosage for someone my size would be about 3 a day. I tripled up because I knew that there were no adverse side effects. I knew that the body would just use what it needed to use and then get rid of the rest. And frankly, I was scared. So 30 days go by. I get a phone call that they had approved my surgery and they wanted me to go in for blood work. Went in for blood work, got a call 24 hours later that said, oncology department wants to do video conference with you immediately. Well, you don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And on the other end of the video call was my oncologist, who had this great big smile on his face. And he said, Diana, what are you doing? When I thought that was just the oddest question, because I was trying to stay alive. What do you mean, what am I doing? And he goes, Diana, you're in remission. So, I knew those were good words, but frankly, I really didn't know what remission meant. And he explained to me that every cancer has a marker and that your markers, are going to show you how you're getting better or getting worse. In my case, my marker should be 2.5, and I was off the charts. But that day, the blood work came back, my markers were 0.5. So he said again, what are you doing? And I said, I'm taking the Corioulus versicolor mushroom. And I had a great doctor who didn't poo-poo it. He said, look, I don't know a lot about it. Send me everything you have. We still need to do surgery. We still need to get this tumor out of you. And I'm probably going to recommend chemo because you have a very aggressive tumor. Very aggressive cancer. It has a 40% chance of reoccurrence without chemo and a 10% chance of reoccurrence with chemo. And I really couldn't argue with those numbers. This is my first go around with cancer. I really had never known anybody with cancer. So I did go in for surgery. I was in and out of the hospital in 18 hours because it was pandemic and they were preparing for this onslaught of people to come in. My doctor said that I actually was one of the best patients they had ever operated on because my body just was so responsive. And some things that were supposed to happen 36, 48 hours later were happening 18 hours later. So they sent me home, recovered for a little while, and then started chemotherapy. Chemotherapy destroys every healthy cell in your body. it destroys your bone density. And I went into this full-on osteoporosis. I'm 66 years old. I have a family history of osteoporosis. So the concerns of me doing chemotherapy while having osteoporosis, they were big. But what I had read from Sloan Kettering and some of the big institutes out there, the Corioulus versicolor mushroom literally is complementary to some forms of chemotherapy. So while my body was being ravaged by chemotherapy, all the healthy cells being destroyed, this mushroom provided the simple support that my immune system needed. That's all that it did. And
Incredible.
so, yeah. And so while my body was being destroyed and my bone density was being attacked, it was literally rebuilding, rebuilding, rebuilding as fast as it was being destroyed. 1 year later, when I end this journey of waiting, surgery, chemotherapy, I went in for full-on testing, and they came back and said, not only are you still zero 0.5, which is still very great remission, but you're no longer osteoporosis. My bone density scan came back that I had wasn't even osteopenia. So my body actually was better than it was when I went into this whole thing. So my journey has been 4 years and 10 months, actually. I have 2 more months before I can say the C word for my cancer journey. And I'm still zero 0.5. I'm healthier than I've ever been. And I thank God for this mushroom. I thank Pet Club 24/7 for developing this human product as well as the product for our animals that my pup takes every day. But I can tell you, coming through this and coming through it as healthy as I did, I don't believe that that would have happened if I didn't have this. So my story is pretty powerful, and it's, here I am today. I didn't lose my hair during chemo. I didn't throw up during chemo, and I don't want to be so personal, but it's the truth of what happened. And I just feel like I need to shout this from the rooftop because for me, it's been a godsend and it's been a blessing.
That's such a powerful testimony. It's hard to find proper words to give you a follow-up question for it, quite frankly. But I guess really the question I have is, you said that this was a product you had in home because you were giving it to a pet at the time that these diagnoses sort of converged with, circumstances in the world that made it really especially tough. What inspired you to take the plunge with Pet Club with respect to your own pets to begin with before this occurred?
Well, I have pet industry background. I was in the pet industry back in the 70s and 80s, and I've always known that there were things out there that were, not so good for our animals. And I have an animal that I absolutely love. And when this company was presented to me and the product was presented to me, my first thought was, I want to protect my dog. I want to protect my puppy. I want him to be around with us forever. He just turned 10. He's been a Pet Club 24/7 mush puppy since he was 4, and so many other products for them. Now my husband started taking the human product right when we started giving the product to my pup. I didn't take it. Maybe it's a decision I'll regret the rest of my life. I don't know. My husband is 73 years old. He hasn't had a cold. He didn't get COVID. He didn't get anything that anyone has ever gotten since he started taking this product 6 years ago. Since I've started taking it, same thing. We're around people all the time that are sick. We're around people all the time that, have sniffles or this or that. And, we really feel bulletproof. We feel like our immune system just has been given what it needs to do the job that it needs to do.
Remarkable. So, I'm going to shift gears here and go up to Miss Kristen in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. It's sort of a difficult act to follow there, but being a certified mycologist and understanding a lot of how these processes work, do you care to take us, Miss Kristen, again, perhaps with a fifth grade understanding of what's going on with this Coriolis versicolor, specifically this particular strain of it, and the human body at the cellular level?
Absolutely. It really is incredible the way that God has so intelligently designed everything to work together and for these resources to be abundantly found in nature for us that actually work completely and perfectly with the body to do what the body needs to do. And what's so incredible about this mushroom is it's just a whole food. It's not a cure for anything. It's not a medication or a treatment for anything. It's no different from a mushroom that you would eat on a salad. Except when you eat this type of mushroom, it actually goes and it feeds the immune system. And the way that it's extracted is very potent, is very pure. We extracted it at its mycelial stage. So while it's still a little baby, that's actually when we extract it because that's when it is most potent and it has the most polysaccharides in it. And it's the polysaccharides that act as the catalyst for the immune system. And it allows your immune system to begin to ramp up and function optimally. And as we all know, you talked at the very beginning of this conversation about an awakening. And I think one big awakening that a lot of us have had and have experienced is that there is an attack on creation and on animals and on people on against the immune system. It is under assault. And I think that, the best response that we can have is to feed the body the foods that it needs to keep that first defense optimal and functioning the way that it was designed to function. So that way, like Diana had mentioned, when there are foreign invaders, any colds or viruses, anything that needs to happen that comes against the body, our body is fully prepared to be able to respond to that in its best form in the best way that it possibly can. And I can get a lot more nerdy on it because it is so fascinating when you learn the way it all works together on a cellular level. And it truly is mind-blowing. But there's a great documentary people can actually watch if they want to learn the benefit of mushrooms and how powerful they are for the body. It's called Fantastic Fungi. And you could just look it up in your search engine on your computer, Fantastic Fungi, and you'll find several different ways that you can watch it. But once I learned that that was the main form of communication for all of nature, for all of creation, and once I learned that the DNA of the mushroom is most closely related to the DNA of people more than animals or plants. It's just incredible, all of these different things that we learned. And once you see it all, then you realize, oh my goodness, this is orchestrated. This was designed. Nothing is a coincidence.
Absolutely incredible. So, you mentioned a moment ago that you could get a little bit more nerdy there. And for the audience out there, we don't want to go too far. We try to keep things relatively even keeled and everyday man here on the Q News Patriot. But you used a word that I would like to drill down a little bit more, and that was polysaccharides. What are polysaccharides, Miss Ludlow, and why are they important for the body? And why is this mushroom at its infancy stage so much more potent with them than, say, at a more mature stage?
Absolutely. So there are two different types of polysaccharides that are found specifically in the Corioulus versicolor mushroom. There are the polysaccharide crestins and the polysaccharide peptides, and both components have different functions. And many times, especially when you find this mushroom in the fully fruited body, it can be diluted. It is just not as potent. There are more beta glucans that are available when it's fully fruited, but beta glucans are found in all different types of mushrooms, all different types of plants. We have no shortage of beta glucans that we're getting into our diet. What we don't have enough of are the polysaccharide crestins and the polysaccharide peptides. So by extracting it in its mycelial phase while it's still a baby, we're able to draw both of those polysaccharides and have them present inside of our capsules, which are called the Inforce capsules. So you'll see actually on there when you look, you'll see with PSP and PSK. That's what it's referring to. So in those hundreds of studies that Diana had alluded to earlier, that's what they're finding is that it's the polysaccharide crestins and the polysaccharide peptides combination is what's acting as the catalyst for the immune system to start ramping up the development of certain types of cells within the body. And that's what gets the immune system up and running and fully functioning.
Powerful, and I think very interesting from the scientific support angle. That's one of the wheelhouses that I'm very inclined to hear from my own personal, opinion, my own personal lens on things. And I'm going to shift that back over to you, Miss Diana. It's very interesting to hear how this particular food, and I think, from your perspective, it very much seems like this was the sole difference, the major defining difference in your particular health journey from from potentially a bad and a negative consequence to what is clearly a wonderful and desirable, result that you've experienced. But can you give us an idea of how you felt or how you have felt, excuse me, over the years taking this mushroom versus perhaps days where you've missed dosages?
Well, I never miss a dose. I'm very diligent in it because I believe it has done for my immune system what was supposed to do and designed to do. As a person who used to get bronchitis every single year, bad bronchitis. I haven't had bronchitis in 5 years. As a person who was very susceptible to strep throat, I have not had that in 5 years. When I know I'm going to be around a lot of people, I have almost 1,000 people or maybe 2,500 people coming to my home tonight for a ceremony. I doubled up today. I doubled up yesterday. I gave my immune system just a little extra support. I have been known to go and do little classes for little kids. And when I'm going to be around all those little petri dishes, I will double up the day before and the day of. And what we've learned, and my husband's the same way, we have learned that, just give that immune system the support that it needs and deserves. We've been compromised. Obviously, I was compromised. Something was not right in my world that caused me to get cancer. Um, and I don't think I'll ever know what that was. I did clean up my diet a tiny bit, but I was eating pretty healthy. I'm a pretty healthy eater. So I really didn't make a lot of other changes. And so, when I look at this journey, I truly believe that I owe 100% of my recovery to this mushroom, the Coriolis versicolor mushroom, the Inforce product, and to my faith, of course, and my diligence in taking it every single day. I never miss it. It's just something that I will do the rest of my life, and I weaned myself back down to 3 a day after the 1 year mark, and I take 3 a day every day. And like I said, I just double up if I know I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to need a little extra support.
Powerful testimony again. So my last question then I guess is going to go out to both of you. I'll start with Miss Ludlow first. We're clearly moving into an era that is much more in balance and much more in alignment with what God always intended for people here in the world. We were supposed to be healthy. We were supposed to come into the world and enjoy life to a great degree. That doesn't exempt us from work. It doesn't exempt us from tribulations or trials or things of human relationships as we go forward. But we were given every resource, every avenue, and every supportive agent here upon this earth when we first came in. What is Pet Club doing to help facilitate that process and bring the earth more into an appropriate alignment at the wellness level for people?
Yes, we truly believe that we've been given a gift that is we just want to be good stewards of it. That's the best way that I can put it. From our very first experience with our partner's mom, Simon Lou's mom, and her experience with her stage 4 condition and turning it around, to then introducing it to other people and having them with all different types of situations, their bodies rebalancing and repairing and recovering, and all of these regulating the different things that were happening in the body, to then adding it for making it available for dogs and cats and horses and seeing the same things happening for animals that are in our care. And you can't see my shirt, but it says be a voice for those who don't have one, and just allowing pet parents to be a good voice for their pets and to get them the proper foods into their diet so that they can not only live a longer life, but have a better quality of life because they're completely dependent on us. To then the whole thing coming full circle and people seeing all of these positive results with their pets and thinking they don't know there's a mushroom in this cookie I'm giving them or this gravy, like it has to work. I want to start taking this myself and offering the human products as well. I think that the common thread or the core of that entire timeline is just being a good steward with this gift God has given us, making sure that we're regularly getting it tested for purity. We're regularly testing for potency. Everything is 100% natural. We use nothing artificially sourced. And that way, our bodies and our pets' bodies know how to metabolize what's going into it. It's nothing chemical. There's nothing foreign. There's nothing synthetic. So our bodies know how to process it. And we believe that God has just blessed us and blessed these products, to be honest, because we've stayed true and kept the natural integrity of the product intact and let the biological technology do its own work inside of the body instead of trying to synthesize it or change it in any way. We just bring it in its purest form and allow it to feed the body in the ways that it was supposed to. So It's something that's very important to us and we take very seriously.
Powerful and compelling. Ladies, I have to say it's been an honor and a privilege and one of the more powerful discussions we've had here on Q News Patriot. Thank you both for joining me. For the audience out there, if you'd like to learn more, you can navigate to qnppetclub247.com or utilize the links in the description box below the video. This is SG Anon. I'll be back with all of you again soon, everyone, on the Q News Patriot. Stay safe. God bless. Bye-bye.